picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Batgirl, 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 Batgirl.
Well, good morning. It's Monday again, and time for yet another week, and we are going to get back onto working on Batgirl this week. But first, let me tell you how I spent my weekend. For the last couple of years now, 2 or 3 years now, I've been lucky enough to be a part of a modeling group here in town, a local get-together of like-minded folks who like to, once a month we get together and we eat dinner and talk about the models that we're working on and what's coming up, and generally chew the fat. Well, every, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, we have what's called a build day. And we'll go to the local hobby shop and we'll sit down around a big table and just pull out a kit and start building. And I've been getting a lot of grief lately, good-natured grief, about the number of Gundam people that have been starting to show up on our groups, and the ever-expanding scourge of Gundam building, calling them glorified Legos, things like that. So I figured, okay, put up or shut up. We're going to do one-day builds, so I'm going to build me a Gundam, for heaven's sake. And so I asked one of the local Gundam gurus in the group, say that 5 times real fast on a Monday morning, that, you know, pick me out a Gundam that you would think would be something good to work on. That and I told him what kind of characters I didn't care for, the ones with all the little spiky things on it, and I didn't want something that once you built it and stood it up, it kept toppling over because it was so top heavy, then had tiny ankle joints and all that kind of stuff. So we chewed through some categories, and I picked out one. I had one that I really wanted to build, and found out one of the other guys had the exact same kit. So, you know, you can't. That's just gauche to build the same Gundam as somebody else is building. So I picked out another one and sat down at the table. And while everybody's, you know, picking through their Gundam parts, we decided to make it a Gundam day, and everybody got a Gundam to build, which made the shop owner very happy. Anyway, we were picking out building our Gundams, and they're going through their parts and putting things together, and I'm just sitting there, okay, looking at this big pile of plastic. Okay, part, that makes sense. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm zipping through this thing, and I'm wondering if I'm being reverent enough to it, because, you know, it's going pretty easy, and, you know, this isn't as tough as people are saying. Oh, Gundam, you never built a master grade, or else you'd be, you know, you would be talking out the other side of your mouth if you ever built a master grade. And it's like, it's a model, it's, you know, it's parts, it's not that tough. But it took me a whole 4 hours, but by the end of the day, I came up with this little gent in this sassy coral pink outfit. I've learned that it's a Zaku, okay? I got my Japanese culture for the day. And it's a decent enough kit. I like the look of it. I like the size of it. I don't, like I said, I didn't like the ones that had all the spiky stuff and all that. So this is the, I've learned this is a bad guy. So hey, it fits with me, I suppose. But what I'm going to do is this week tear this thing apart and give it what I'd call a proper paint job, because these flat model colors just don't work for me. So I'm going to be experimenting with weathering and aging and chipping and all that kind of stuff on this kit, which is good, because the only other kit on the table right now is Batgirl, and she's mostly done with the exception of her face. And let's show you where the current state of Batgirl is. Forgive me, one last point on the Gundam. As we were building our figures, I pointed out the fact that this gun that the Gundam comes with, this gun was taller than some of the other figures, the entire figures that they were building. It's like, you know, they make big kits, why not get the big kits? But anyway, here's Batgirl from toes to neck. And I've put a first base coat of flesh on the face. And I've got the base that I'm ready to do the funky lettering on. So let me go out in the other room, grab that. And but first, yeah, let me grab all the parts together, and then we'll sit down and start working. Okay, I got something quick I want to knock out this morning before I get too engrossed in the lovely bat face. It is putting this vinyl lettering down on the name plaque, because I have found, especially when I did Robin, that doing it this way gives you a much nicer, cleaner line than trying to paint that wood. Yes, you could just do a dry brush and and hit the high spots. But what the heck? I've got the tools, I've got the toys. Let's take advantage of them. So I'm just gonna. I've peeled off all the vinyl around the letters, so I'm just gonna pick them up one by one and put them in place on the base. There now. It's been a couple 10 minutes, and we've got a nicely vinyl applied Batgirl base. Yeah, stands out really well. Luckily, it's the same color as the vinyl I use for my masking, so it was a happy accident, and I think a good result. Well, good morning. It's Tuesday, and you can see a bunch of parts strewn about the table of what once was a very mega-sized Zaku. Somebody has reminded Mother Nature that it's supposed to be winter out, so it's cold, wet, and rainy today, which means I can't do really any good priming. But what I can do is disassemble this guy as much as possible and do things like go into the core of it and glue parts together and sand the seams and do some of that kind of stuff. Parts that don't intersect with other parts, like this whole shield, I can glue together and seam, and if I need to do any bondoing, I can do that. So that kind of work I could do today, but I can't do any large-scale priming or repainting. Batgirl is in pretty good shape. I could start on the face today, do that kind of work because it's not going to require being outside, which has turned nasty all of a sudden. Well, good morning and welcome back. It is Thursday, and I'm still bloody cold outside, so I'm trying to make myself useful by doing the little things that I can do on Batgirl without benefit of it being warm enough to do anything big. And I'm going to work on the pouches today and the belt buckle. I think the problem I had with them was trying to handle them, so I thought maybe if I put little sticks on them to give me something to grip, then I would be better off, and they would also give them some way to dry. I didn't like the squareness of them, so I made them more pouchy looking by rounding them off a little bit with a sanding stick to try to make them look a little less cardboardy. And I still need to go over the belt buckle one more time. I was not finding myself an easy way to get around to the back of it, so I figured adding this little handle would help. But who knows? Let's find out. And I'm working on the base, and I'm just taking the my ever favorite Comart smoke and going into the cracks and crevices with the smoke to try to add more contrast to the base. And I'm going to stick a little bit of moss here and there to lighten it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and put felt on the bottom, because this thing is a big damaging hunk of, and you can hear when it hits the glass that I need to soften the blow a little bit. So some felt on that, and I'm working more on the hair, trying to get that bright, not bright red, but the lightest color on, and then I'll go in with a dark brown wash and wash in some of the crevices. And that leads us to nothing left but this face. And you can see the eyes have been whitened a bit and the lips have been reddened a bit. And when I was at my model meeting last night, I picked up some wee tiny brushes. If you're going to do eyes, you need wee tiny brushes, and I need fresh tiny brushes because my tiny brushes have all got that little curl on the end. You've seen it when you don't maintain them properly. So I got some fresh brushes. Boy, say that first thing in the morning. Fresh brushes. And also got a good new base color, which is more of a pinkish hue for you Seinfeld fans than the other flesh colors that I have. Hopefully this will pretty her up a bit. I had noticed when I was painting that I was getting a bit of a almost a sienna or a sunburnt look, and that was too yellow, too much on the yellow end of the spectrum. So I want to get more on the pinkish end. So let's work on these rocks some more. Okay, we've come to that part where the rubber meets the road, and like any good resin kit, you've got to do some adapting because things warp and things twist and things don't always fit perfectly. Got this arm on, that's set, no changing that. I'm trying to fit the cape over top of the body and the arm, and trying to get this important joint to work and this important joint to work, and one of the two has to give, because you can see the gap that's formed there. The hand, if you pull it up and tighten it in there, will clean up a little bit, but then you get this joint where it's not quite, this part of the cape, sorry, that's what happens. This part of the cape isn't quite sitting down on the elbow, on the right arm, and giving it the weight that it deserves. And you push everything down to try to get it to fit. Then you've got to play with this angle of the wrist on the left hand to get it to fit in just right. So it's a little bit of a dance, it's a bat dance, but it's well worth it in the end. Okay, I am almost ready for the big gluing down of the cape, or the epoxying down of the cape. But before I do that, I need to make sure that I have touched up areas that I will not be able to get to once the cape is ensconced. So I went back and repainted the top of that arm. Yes, I've sanded off, actually. Took a sanding block to some of that so that I have a better surface from which the epoxy to grab, rather than trying to grab onto that glittery paint. And I've taken the opportunity to throw a gloss on these guys, get them ready to glue on. They'll be glued on at the very, well, not the very end, but after the cape is on and the arm is in. I think I have figured out a way that I could put the cape on and glue it to the back here, and then I can work this wrist in after the cape is glued on. I can actually wedge it up under the cape and glue it into place, and that will tell me how much of a gap will result there that I'll need to fill in. I put a little bit of gloss on the bat there, and I can touch up the gold outline a little bit later on, so you're getting that glare. There you go. Knock the light off of that so you can see what's going on there. So now we're at a go let it dry place, because I am starting to step over myself and work on wet paint, which is never good. So we're going to let that go, because this, after all, is a variant of my dreaded nemesis, the metallic paints. So we're going to let that sit for a while. Maybe go play with a Gundam a bit. Well, the momentous time has come, and I started doing it without any fanfare because I really didn't want to jinx myself, but I've started painting. And both eyeballs are looking in the same direction, which is always a good start. Not too bad. And I'll put all of that down to how good the sculpt is. Makes it really easy to hit those high spots when it's sculpted that well. Her left eye is a little wonky still. That's not the one I've got as finished as the right eye. But I took a good friend's advice. I'm a figure painter of whom I hold in high esteem, and he said to use some pastels for the makeup, and just as a woman would use. She uses a brush and powders. You should use a brush and powders. So the cheeks were done with that, and I've been slowly and laboriously feathering in the colors, and not trying to get everything done in one swell swoop or one fell swoop. So that is a lot of it, but a lot of it was also getting this pinker base on. That helped it a lot. But you're trying to get the fact that it's the same color as my hand tells you that I've got the flesh tones right. But I'm trying to get the color balance to read correctly on this. We'll see if the color balance is a little bit better on this. Now, a lot of that is going to be covered with the cowl, but the important thing is how it looks in conjunction with the other colors. Yeah, the jawline is a little prominent on that, and I write that off to how it's molded. But if you take that, let me zoom back out, take that, put that over it as it should be, you get a better idea of exactly what is going to be seen. So yeah, it's a little bit darker and the eye makeup is a little heavy, but by the time you put that cowl on, you really will lose it if you don't play it up a little bit. And I'm still highlighting and shadowing and shading the hair, so it won't be that glossy when we're done. I'll put a flat coat over top of that. But coming along nicely. I think I might be ready to put the cape on by the time I put the face away so that I don't overwork it, and maybe time to get the cape back out. Okay, I've got another idea, and it's either going to be right or not, but I need to get on with it. I'm thinking now, from all of the test fitting and hemming and hawing I've done on this cape, that it might actually suit me better if I glue the hand to the top of the cape to make sure that that joint is where I want it to be. If I go ahead and epoxy that together now and then slide the whole thing in, I think I'm going to have better luck wrestling everything around and into shape after that point. So let's give that a try. Okay, it's not nearly as neat or clean as I would have wanted it to be, but it's on. And it's epoxied and it's not going anywhere, but there has got to be some touching up to get around it. It's resin, what can you say? It doesn't always fit. So best you could do is hold it in place and pour epoxy in around it and hope that it sets up. So yes, there will be some touching up to do. Probably of all three of the colors, that being the metallic purple, the speckle, and the yellow. But I don't know how that could have been avoided. Face looks lovely. I'll take that success as I can get it. And of course the hair is a work in progress. But the head fitting on, and the face hopefully will make up for it. And I'll get the belt and other accoutrements sorted in a bit. But I'm going to let this sit at least overnight before I come back to it and start touching up the paint. Forgot to show the results of a little bit of putting some lichens and some moss on the base into some of the deeper places. I think it turned out kind of neat. And I am going to do my best to leave this alone for the rest of the day. Well, good morning. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week, and it's also St. Patrick's Day, so give an Irishman a pinch today. Anyway, we are working on Batgirl today, and we are in damage control. We are mitigating some of the damage, and I'm going to get on my soapbox now. There's no way, under God's green earth, that you can paint this kit or build this kit completely and then paint it. You have got to paint some of it before you build it, because you've got parts intersecting other parts, and you will never paint this, you'll never be able to paint this cape if you put it on before you paint it. You just can't do it. You've got to paint the cape separately and then attach it. You've got to paint the arms particularly, and the back of the back before you put the cape on. It just has to go that way. And that's going to involve painting it, putting it together, and then patching and repairing the paint that you've disrupted. It's just no two ways about it. It's got to be done that way. So that's what we're doing today. And also, the nature of this cape is such that, yes, you've got it painted and you've got to set aside, and then you're going to put it on the kit. It doesn't really, at least mine, because it's resin. Resin warps, resin does weird things, and then when you paint it, it gets even weirder. You have to pick. I was not able to make both this joint lay flat right around here and that joint lay flat. So I know pictures show it being done. I don't know how it was done. So you have to sacrifice one or the other, and I chose to sacrifice this joint here. You can justify that, yes, she's holding the top of the cape, she's pulling it tight. Her arm's got a bit of a bend in it. That's why you see the space in here. You cannot, if you pull that tight, which you can do, if you pull it tight, then it pulled it up off of the shoulder here. It pulled the cape up on this side, which to me is harder to justify, because if you have that much material, you have all of that weight, and it should be sitting down on the arm, and this is resting down on the arm like it should. I couldn't do both of those at the same time without, you know, a third hand, a second person, multiple clamps, and a small llama. So I couldn't do it. So I settled for this, and I left this gap in here. But that means now I've got to go in and touch up the paint and patch a little bit of the glove underneath where it meets the arm. Luckily, that's an easy enough color to match. The thing is that what I found was the most handy thing to do, though, in order to make that happen. Yes, I did glue it to the cape to start with. Sorry, I had to sneeze, and I may again in a minute. But I had to glue this part in here, and then I nipped off the stub, the glue stub right there that sticks down into the arm. I had to cut that off, and once I did that, it fit down nice and flat and level. I think maybe it was a little too long for, or it forced it in at a weird angle. So once I cut that off, everything was fine. But troweling in the epoxy behind here, once I had the cape down and I was having everything set, I turned it upside down so that I could pour the epoxy in and let it settle in the joint and go stiff. I mean, you know, do what epoxy does. And what that left me was some residue under here that I'm not happy with. So that's what I'm going to be working with today. I got the felt on the bottom, so this now slides a lot easier here than it did yesterday. But looking behind it, there's just no way you could have painted that separately. I mean, painted it once it was in place. You got to paint it separately. And then here's the back. The other thing that I'm toying with today, and we'll see how far we get with it, is the nature of purple. Purple's one of those colors. It can either go to the red or go to the blue. It's tough to catch that sweet spot. But I'm looking at publicity pictures, and, you know, depending on the lighting and depending on what scene you're in, her purple outfit can go towards the fuchsia side, and it can go towards the navy side, and it just vacillates back and forth. So I'm thinking that what I'd like to do, especially not on the body, because obviously this is done, but on the cowl and the back of the cape, because it's still possible to mask some other things off and paint that, I'm thinking I want to introduce a little bit more of a fuchsia color to that satin, to just the part that's on the cowl and the part that's on the back. And I tried an experiment this morning. This is the fuchsia spray on below. I don't like the big dots of it, so I'm making sure that I shake it very well, and I'm probably going to end up decanting it and putting it into an airbrush rather than trying to spray it out of the can. But that's it sprayed over the dark purple, or the metallic purple. And I'm seeing, like, depending on the light, you can see how it shades back and forth. But I'm thinking I might want to try that on those two portions, which once I am painting everything else, I might as well. So we'll give that a shot, and then we're going to decide whether or not the face is done, or how much more work it needs. Probably a little bit more blush on the cheeks, that sort of thing. And we might, mind you, get this ready to be buttoned up today. Who knows? But that's what we're doing. We're second guessing and we're fixing today. Well, I think I just came up with a solution to my problem that is going to improve the look of Batgirl and solves the problem quite eloquently, I think. See these guys? These guys aren't here. I guess actually you could suggest that they would be back in the fold behind where the cape is, but they are attached to the outboard seam of the glove, which is right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fabricate 3 of these out of epoxy sculpt, and I'm going to put them right in here, which is going to help fill in some of that space, and it's going to make it look more attractive to boot and cover up some of that ugly resin or ugly epoxy. So let's do that. Okay, I think that's a pretty darn good elegant solution for my problem. Put these three guys in there. This is an ugliness that needs to be cleaned up, but by putting some epoxy sculpt back in that joint between the arm and the cape, I have cleaned that up considerably. Of course, it will need a round of paint, but what doesn't these days? But yeah, those are gonna dry in overnight, or at least over the weekend, and I will get back to them. I'll probably start painting on this weekend. I don't think I can wait that long, but you won't see it until the next report. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the very definition of leave well enough alone. I'm very happy with how this turned out. Taking a little bit of back to the fuchsia. Yes, I'm trying to do my best Doc Brown. We're going back to the fuchsia. This is a little bit of Pactra, burgundy, what they call burgundy. Decanted, of course, and not sprayed directly, but sprayed through an airbrush. Just over the cowl. And I liked how the cowl was turning out so much that I got brave and did the back of the cape, which needs to match the cowl. And all I've got left to do now is wait for everything to dry and paint these in, paint the, touch up the glove, touch up that little bit of the arm, and if, depending how brave I get about the face today, face is looking good, but I think I may let it be aside for a minute because I don't want to press my luck. I've got to repaint the hair right up there where the burgundy got on it, or the fuchsia got on it. But that color combination, or that color contrast, is exactly what I was looking for between that and that, or between, get my pointy device out, between the bluer color of the cat suit and the more fuchsia color of the back of the cape. And again, this is one of these things that depends on how you see it in what light, because certain lights are making it shine differently. But that's the color I was looking for, because all of the good color references that I saw had that more grape colored cowl. So yay on me, I'm glad I found that, and let's not press our luck by trying to do something more. Let's just let it rest. Go on to working on the Gundam, actually, because now I've got plenty of time to put this mess in a row, and if it warms up anymore today, I might get more priming done. And one last look at Batgirl for the week. The more I see that color, the more I really dig it. I think that was just the right thing to do. I don't often pat myself on the back, but I think I done good there. And I've got the belt packs on now, and the belt buckle. So coming together. One last bit of repainting and repairing in there. I really like how those look. And then that'll be done, and I can attach the face. I'm going to sit and I'm going to think about this face all weekend to see whether I think it's done or not. Sometimes I have a tendency to overwork faces. If anybody has seen me paint, you'll know that that's true. And this I'm going to see maybe if less is more. But we're going to let her sit and enjoy the weekend. And that's as good a place as any to wrap up for this week. Didn't get a lot done this week. I hate to blame it on the weather, but it really was a case of it being just too cold out to do a lot of painting, and I'm not really geared up to do a lot of the big priming and that kind of stuff in here. Anything with a spray can I can't really do, so that got pushed to the side. I did get the good work done on Batgirl. Very happy to finally come up with a color for this cape that I'm happy with. That was bugging me like you wouldn't know. And fixing the arm, which was kind of a bummer. I knew there was going to be, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of thing. Anytime you pre-paint something and then you stick it together, you pray you won't have to paint over it, but you know in your heart of hearts you will. So that was the biggest bummer, was that I didn't get that clean joint on the cape that I was hoping for. So you get out your epoxy sculpt, and you sculpt your way out of a corner. So that's setting up, and we'll be tackling that next week. So until next week, when hopefully the weather will break and it'll be warm enough that I can get my Gundam out and finish priming and painting it. We'll see you here next time. So until then, be good to each other. Pray for warm weather, and we'll see you here next time.